بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Continuing our lessons on Usul Fiqh. Last week we began the discussion about the Ahkam al-Taklifiyya, the Ahkam al-Khamsa that we know about, which are wajib, والمندوب والمستحب المباح والمكروه والمحرم. And today inshallah we're trying to cover all of them with a little bit more clarity and ease. In the group to our da'wah I posted some notes. Inshallah you can follow with me. So if you go to the Torn Da'wah, you'll find some notes there. Inshallah that will be easier for us to follow and to be able to follow the classes with more structure, even though that we'll explain as we go. So if you go in the group, you'll see it's only 3 pages. And this will cover this section, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And we'll use this as a guide to help organize the ma'lumat, the material. So we said last week, al-ahkam al-taklifiyya, these are the rulings that Allah wants from us. These are the rulings Allah wants from us, either commanding us or prohibiting. And then there's the one where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a choice, which is mubah. So if something is an amr, if it's a command, it's going to be, as we'll see, between wajib wal mandub or mustahab. And if it's a nahi, a prohibition, muharram or makruh, disliked or prohibited. And if it's takhir, choice, mubah. So we're going to see then that you can categorize the text when you see them. If it's a command, Allah wants something from us, either it's going to be something He made wajib, binding, or recommended, mustahab. You have a choice to do it, but it's better to do it, mustahab. You have to do it with no excuses, except for necessities, etc. This is called wajib. Then Allah prohibits, it's going to be muharram, haram to do it. Or He prohibits, but it's not binding, and better to avoid, but you can do, makruh, disliked. Then there's mubah, the last one, which is Allah gives us a choice. And we'll see that sometimes, and oftentimes there's no command or prohibition. It's left in the origin, as we'll see. So you can categorize the rulings this way. So sometimes the ulama, when they organize the ahkam, they organize it across this. Amr, 1, 2, nahi, 1, 2, the mubah last. Because it goes outside the amr wa nahi. But for most of us, I think we remember them by order of severity. Right? You have to do it, it's good to do it, you're allowed to do it, shouldn't do it, you can't do it. So I use that organization because it's easier for us to remember. Tayyib, now that we understand it's 5, under each one there is levels. And therefore, at the end, you're going to see that the mabahith, the research elements or the subject matters of each section are limited. And we'll see at the end how you can apply them to different issues, but they're limited. Again, under each section, more research. But right now what we're doing is just an overall review. So if you get the overview, khalas, you understood the general, then you can go into details and see where the ulama, the usuliyun, the jurists, the experts in usul fiqh, where they differ. Let's go back to wajib again and we'll go down from there. Wajib, the definition for it, is that which Allah commanded a person to perform by way of a binding command. So that which Allah wants from us with the amr or command, which is hatman, it's wajib, you have to do it. Hatman means binding, no out. Or some use the word lazim, you have to do it. So therefore Allah commanded, the talab min Allah, i.e. command, amr, Allah wants it from you. And He commanded you in what manner? A way you have no choice. Lazim or hatman, you have to do it. The ruling then, the hukum, if someone does this wajib with the niyyah, they deserve reward. And it says they deserve reward. And if they leave it off, then they deserve punishment. So that's the hukum. Before continuing, some of the ulama, they mix the ta'rif with the hukum. So have you probably seen books, some books they say that which Allah wants from us with a binding command. Some say that which if you do you get reward, otherwise you get punishment. These are two definitions saying the same thing, but in two different ways. The ta'rif, the first one is the definition, the second one is the hukum. So salah is wajib, right? Allah wants you to do it. Did He give you a choice in the matter? No. Waqimu salah, He gave you amr, hatman, laziman, you have to pray. Tayyib. When you prayed, مع النية إنما الأعمال بالنيات من شروط الصلاة نية. You prayed Isha. What do you deserve? Reward. Deserve. Key word. Not you get. The ulama correct that. Deserve because you may not get a reward. It's impossible to pray Salah and you didn't get anything. You can get the obligation off your back, but perhaps you prayed and you didn't get anything. So they say you deserve the reward and you don't deserve punishment. Deserved. Because it's possible someone prays and it wasn't very good, or somebody else prayed but there's a mani'. An example, someone's prayed but he's drinking alcohol. How many days of Salah is not accepted? 4 days. It counts, but does he deserve reward? No, it doesn't deserve reward. As a mani', preventative. So that's why they say deserve. And that's Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah. We know people deserve punishment, but Allah may not forgive them, punish them, might forgive them. As someone deserves reward, he might not get it due to a preventative. That's a better way of looking at it. Because we don't believe I did it, I get it. Allah knows. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah only accepts from the pious. So that's why when we get the benefit here, if you generally, Allah will reward you. Inshallah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kareem. So that's called the ruling of wajib. Okay, that's one. Now the headings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 issues underneath wajib, 5. And you can see in the notes, 5 issues. And each one of these has some impact on the rulings. Because what is the step-by-step approach to all of this? First step, we're going to analyze the ayah or hadith to figure out what is one of its rulings. Right? So you look at ayah or hadith, these are the nusus, shar'iyya, Quran and Sunnah, then what are you trying to find out? Is this thing wajib or mustahab? Is it makruh or is it muharram? Okay. You determine it's wajib. Now the next questions. What kind of wajib? What is it regarding its timing? What about its amount? What about who has to do it? How do you know, for example, the type or the amount? And how about its wordings? So at the end, when you find something's wajib, you have to ask yourself questions about the wajib. But the first step is to find out its wajib. And so we're going to do at the end examples of this, so it becomes clear why we need in these categories. Because at the end of the day, these are the short list of what the ulama are going to tell you about action. And the impact of the action depending on these categories. First category under these wajib, the timing. So bi'tibar waqt, in terms of its timing, we said that it has 2 types. Either it's time bound, it's muwaqqat, or غير muwaqqat. Is time bound or no time bound. All that means is some ibadat, they have a timing, and some ibadat are mutlaq, they have no timing. So the first question you ask when you find something's wajib, does it have a time or does it not have a time? So an example of ibadah that has time is salah. So salah is an ibadah muwaqqata, it has a time. You have to pray Isha from this time until that time. Time. Some ibadat are mutlaqa, they don't have time. So when it's due on you, you do it as soon as possible, but there's no time. What's an example of that? Huh? Hajj. Hajj doesn't have a time. Can I perform Hajj now? Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat. So but he's right in some ways. It's in between. Huh? Sadaqah. Sadaqah mutlaq. You can give sadaqah whenever you feel like it. Right? Obeying the parents. No time. All the time, right? Right? But there's no such thing as, you got to obey your parents with the Maghrib Isha. Right? Otherwise you're in trouble. No. Mutlaq. طيب. If it's time bound and muwaqqat, we ask questions. Number 1, is its timing muwassa', spacious, or mudayyiq, tight or restricted? So last week we said timing. If something has a time, the next question you ask, what kind of time? Muwassa' means spacious timing, mudayyiq means restricted. Spacious timing means I can do that action multiple times in the time frame. So remember the ruling. How do you know something's spacious? Can you do that action many times, the same action many times in a time given? If the answer is yes, it's muwassa'. If no, it's mudayyiq. Example, salah. Right now we prayed Isha. I can pray another Isha now, another Isha and again and again. I'm not supposed to, but I could up until the time ends. So Isha therefore, or salah is therefore spacious. An example of an act of worship which is restricted, siyam. How many fasts can you make one day? Ramadan, you're going to be going fast. On Monday, can you fast Monday, Thursday, and Monday? You can't. For 2 reasons. Number 1, it's Monday. Right? You can't do Thursday and Monday. And the second problem is, there's only time for one fast. It's mudayyiq. The whole day is one fast. The benefit behind this we'll see later. Why do we have to know this? طيب. Everyone understands that? So what's muwassa' mean? You can do the same action how many times? more than once. And if it's mudayyiq, you can only do that action. The whole time is filled up only one action. The brother asked a good question about the Hajj. Hajj will go in category 3. It resembles mudayyiq wal muwassa'. It has both characters. Why? Because I could do more than one Hajj, technically, in the months of Hajj. But months of Hajj are restricted. So it looks like muwassa' because I could technically I could do more than one Hajj in Hajj time, but it's only one Hajj allowed. So some ulama say it's muwassa', some say it's mudayyiq, some say it resembles both. So it's not necessarily wrong, but that's one of the rare ones where you have both. So if the ibadah is muwaqqat and it's muwassa', it's spacious in timing, 3 things come underneath it now. So take a look now, 3 things. If you prayed on time, or you did the action on time, it's called al-ida. Al-ida means you did it on time. Al-ada. You did it on time. Al-ada, you performed it on time. Right now we did Isha on time. So this is done on time. If I missed the Isha timing and I prayed after its time, I do making up. This is called al-qada. And if I prayed Isha on time but I broke my wudu, make wudu and come back, I'm doing repeating. This is called al-i'ada. Al-i'ada, you have to repeat. So why is this important? Ibadah that is time bound and it's spacious. Essentially, you have categories of how you did the action. If you did it on time, with its pillars, conditions and obligations and no nullifiers, you're done. This is called al-ada. You performed Isha ala waqtiha, khalas, nothing on your neck. I missed Isha time. Now I have to pray Isha, I'm doing al-qada. Why am I doing qada? Because I missed the time of the ibadah which is muwassa', and I should have done it on its time, but I missed it. But the scholars here, they have the conversation. If I miss an act of worship which is spacious in its timing, I have to look at the udhr, the reason as to why I missed it. So that's why the question comes when the ulama say, do you qada if you missed it without intent, without a purpose or no purpose? Example, somebody's playing basketball, the whole Isha time went out. Can you do qada? اختلفت العلماء, they differed. Why are they differing? They agree salah is an ibadah that's muwaqqat, muwassa', but they differ if qada is allowed with the extra proof or no proof. So how can they misunderstand this? If you need proof to do the ibadah, or you need proof to make it up. If the Quran and Sunnah said whoever forgot can make it up, whoever was sleepy can make it up, whoever lost his mind or meant to, in a coma can make it up, the one who's playing games, there's no proof he can make it up. That's a better way of looking at it. But the ulama who say otherwise, what do they say? Yes, you missed it on time. Yes, you're sinful. But because Allah commanded you to do it, and the ibadah is an act of worship that's a dayn on your back, and like a debt, make it up. So therefore, we can see that a lot of ibadat, like even some of the ulama, they write 300 more pages just on waqtul muwassa'. Just going in on that topic. 352 pages. One alim he wrote on this topic, on all the tafri'at, where we're going with it. Why? It shows you the beauty of the deen. Why? Because the one issue, it can go from general, it can get real complicated. But the beauty of it, if I ask you salah is muwaqqat, okay, muwassa', good. Qada, okay, now you're going in, you can start seeing where different opinions are coming. Now you're getting closer to understanding, I understand why the ulama differ. At least I'm following the line of thought. But if someone told you can't make it up, Nana Shaykh says make it up. Right? Most of us, how many people have asked that question? Brother, my whole life I didn't pray salah. Do I have to make it up? One group of ulama say you have to make it up. Another ulama say you don't make it up. Me and you're thinking, why are they differing? They're differing because the qada, without an excuse, can you make it up or not? So they went from waqt, muwassa', qada, dalil for the qada, udhr, no udhr. That's what they're talking about. So if you can follow that much, you're in the conversation. But if you got lost in the part where they're talking about qada, then you're going to be like anyone else. I don't know, qada, he says qada, don't do qada. And some people, they ask the question a lot. You have to just take an opinion you trusted of the ulama or someone you trust, but think about what's being asked here. Why they arguing? They're arguing about qada and the proofs for it, the reasons for it. Next, repeating the action, al-i'ada. I did something that nullifies my ibadah. Let's give the salah example. And it's still the time to do it. I prayed Isha, but I broke my wudu. So I go make wudu, come back and do Isha again. So my Isha will count the second time, but it's called repeating. You repeated the action. You only repeat the action when you have Dalil. Repeating an action without dalil, there's no proof for that. So Salat Isha once a day, Maghrib once a day. If you're going to tell yourself repeat, you need dalil. But very important. Some people say, I didn't feel that salah. No, it's not about feeling, brother. You come with the shurut, wa arkan, and no nawaqid, khalas, move. But you see some people asking a question, I did this, I did that. What are they trying to do? They want to open the door to i'adah. No, you need proof. Another example, someone prayed behind the row, and there's space in the row for no reason. He just stood in the middle of the masjid or second row. What's the ruling on that kind of salah? Correct opinion is invalid. And what does he have to do? He has to repeat it. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we saw a man praying behind the saf. There's space. فَأَمَرَ أَنْ يُعِيدْ. He commanded him to repeat it. Why? Because that's one of the conditions of the salah jama'ah. He has to be in the row. He'd have no proof for it, no excuse for it. La salata. There's no salah limunfaridin khalf al-saf. So here we learn that it is dalil for it. So here we learn that if somebody did the action properly on its time, al-adah, you did it outside of its time, al-qada, if you have an excuse for the qada, go ahead. If you have no excuse, better opinions to say, make tawbah and don't do it again. And the reason why that's important, but at least you can follow now some difference of opinion there. Next, the act of worship which is restricted, we already mentioned you can only do one action in the time period, and then ones which look like both, which are like Hajj. B, let's talk about amounts. Al-wajib then can be divided into that which has a fixed amount, muhaddad, and that which is ghayr muhaddad. That which is fixed and that which is not fixed in miqdar, in amount. So what's an ibadah which is fixed in its amount? Zakat. How much zakat do you give on gold or money and currency? 2.5%. How much zakat do you give in zakat al-fitr? Sa'ab, tamar, or sa'ab, this. We have the numbers. طيب. Some ibadat are not fixed in their amount. Right? We're going to see an example like nafaqah, providing for your spouse or your family. So wajib, ghayr muhaddad. So how much you give? Bil ma'ruf. Goes back to the customs. So the sharia, if it bounded you to an amount, you got to stick to the amount. If it didn't give you an amount, it's not restricted, then the ulama go into another conversation. Before going there, why do we have to know if ibadah is fixed in amount or not? Remember I said, in order to do the mutaba'a, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you need 6 conditions. And one of them is al-miqdar, amount. Someone say, I pay my zakat. How much you pay? 5%. I say, 5%, brother, why do you do 5%? If he says, I wanted to give it, lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say, okay, mashallah, that's good. Another person can say, I gave 1%. Why? Because I pay a lot of taxes this year. Right? What are we going to tell them? Their zakat is batil, it's not counting, you're not done yet. Add to that 1.5. Some people say, I pay zakat, I gave you in taxes. Wallahi, there are people who think this. They think taxes, zakat, where's the barakah? Is that, how much to take? So we tell them, miqdar akhi. But the sharia now, if something is bound, muhaddad bi miqdar, can I increase it? Can I decrease it? The way to know if you can go up beyond it, you check the sharia again. So let's give an example. I prayed salah, maghrib, 3 rak'ahs. Can I say today I feel a little bit, energetic, I'm going to do 4? No one did that yet, alhamdulillah. No one does that. Why? Because we know you can't. But today I say I feel like I want to do more sunnah. I did 2 sunnah after maghrib. And I want to do some more sunnah. Can I do more sunnah after maghrib? Okay, bismillah. Oh, go ahead. That one you can increase. How about if I increase in khushu' of salah? That's good. Sharia says khushu' should be increased. But when it comes to the fixed amount, if the Sharia fixed it, stay where the Sharia fixed it. As for that which is not fixed, then it goes back to the customs or sometimes the ruler. You see? Sometimes some things the ruler would determine for us. For example, corporal punishments. Some of the corporal punishment go back to the ruler. That's an example, ta'zirat, right? Someone needs discretionary punishment. The Quran and Sunnah don't give a exact amount. Can the ruler say, we've got to fine this guy? Yes, because ta'zir is a ibadah or a type of act of worship which is ghayr muhaddad, the amount. So in the past you have different types of punishments, right? Have you noticed this? Sometimes you hear a different punishment to think, well, where is that in the Sharia? The Qaadir made ijtihad. Because it's ta'zir, is not hudud. Hudud are different. So when we ask the question about ibadah, ask the question, does it have a fixed amount or not? That's the question you're going to ask. If it's fixed amount, what is it and how much do I have to do it? If the ulama differ sometimes, if something's fixed or not, and then they differ on when is it fixed. So just to give you one example, if a man gets married to a wife, he has to give nafaqah. Nafaqah goes back to what he's able to give and what the custom says usually should be given. But if you cannot achieve what's customarily given, gives what he can give. لِيُنْفِقُ ذُو سَعَةٍ مِنْ سَعَةٍ. Everyone gives according to what he has. طيب. Now I'm going to give how much I can afford. What's the problem now? When do you give it? So the Hanafi others say, if both the parties agree, or the Qaadir says you have to pay nafaqah, or Jumhur ulama say as soon as you become husband and wife, and now the nafaqah is supposed to come, especially if he moves in with you, it's okay, now you have to start paying. The reason why it's important, they agree it's غير محدد, but they differ on when it's due. So if you hear someone say, well, you don't have to pay yet, if someone said to pay yet, all they're going to discussing now is what time to pay. They all agree the amount is based on, it's not based on the fixed amount, it's based on the urf or the people's capacity. So the benefit behind it, some of the finer details of fiqh go to this. Our job is not to get the answer yet. Our job is just to follow the line of thinking. What is the conversation? Muhaddid, ghair muhaddid. Okay, I'm with you. But right now, if you don't know what that means, and when the sheikhs are debating, you're like, it doesn't matter to me which way he goes. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know where he's going with it. So the question you're going to ask, if an action is wajib and the amount, is it fixed or not? Next consideration is in relation to the doer. Is it individual obligation or communal? Fard kifai or aini. The benefit behind this, if it's aini, I have to do it. If it's kifai, someone has to do it for us. Salatul jama'ah, for example, the scholars, they differ on it. But Salatul jama'ah, we know is fard aini. Right? Everyone has to do it. For those who say it's fard, and those who say it's mustahab, they say everyone has to recommend to do it. But they agree that salah, every individual 5 days prayer is a fard or a wajib aini on us, each one of us. Salatul janazah, fard, kifai. So if you slept in, you missed it, no sin. But if all of us don't do it, then it becomes communal sin. All of us are in trouble because we didn't do it. So that's when the ulama, they debate sometimes. It's fard aini, kifai. The only reason why you need to know it, do I have to do it? So nobody is going to try their best to miss the janazah prayer. But if I missed it, I'm not going to say, wait, I have to pray it. Or some people do say, we can't pray yet because we have to get the family to come in. Yes, some of the ulama say it's consideration if you want the family to come pray. But since it's fard kifai, hurry up with it is better. Hurrying up with the janazah is better. But if there's a dispute, it's better to compromise to find a middle ground. But the kifai part means I'm not unresponsible. We'll see another example of that. So when you look at the ibadat, always ask yourself, who needs to do it? And if you try to figure out if it's individual or communal. Okay, and when it's individual, the benefit goes back to every doer. If it's communal, the benefit goes to the community. So janazah, what's the benefit? It's the right of the Muslim in general, that we all are buried, and we are given that right. So if someone else did it, the maslahah has been achieved. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us from the dust, and is going to put it back in it. So someone has to put us in it. Right? ثُمَّ أَمَاتَهُ فَأَقْبَرَهُ. Then you die and you're buried. So someone has to bury you. But the maslahah has not achieved, the person's lying body rotting on top, then we're sinful. Salatul jama'ah, Salatul faraid, the khams faraid, the maslahah goes back to us. Because when we pray, I'm getting benefit. Inna salatanha and fahsha'i al-munkar. When I pray, remember Allah. So that's why Allah wants us to do it. So this is from the hikmah of the sharia. You can check the maqasid of the ibadat. You will always see when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something individual obligation because it's for everybody, individual needs it. Where it's communal, the maslahah is achieved overall. That shows you the beauty of the deen. Even some of these, if a non-Muslim were to look at our sharia and see why this category, not that category, wallahi, you can guide him to Islam. Wallahi. Islam is the only religion. The maqasid of sharia are found beautifully in its ahkam. So some of the ulama say, why some ibadat Allah left it غير محدد? Because Allah knows people are going to change and time is going to change. So Islam is صالح المصلح لكل زمان مكان. Allah knows we're going to be in North America. Allah knows some people are going to be in the East. So He made the nafaqah based on where you are and what you can do. Allahu Alim and Hakim. See, some questions, 5 salah? No, 5 salah is muhaddad. Allah knows the maslahah is there. That's the thing when today we want to quantify the sharia, this is how you do it. If someone came to you today and said, prove Islam is correct. If you just told them some of the ahkam, you look at you shocked. How you know all these things? From the same sources that we have. Our book and our sunnah are sufficient for us. And the last two, specific obligation or obligation of choice. In relation to the fi'l. Some things Allah made mu'ayyan and some He made it mukhayyar. So most of the ibadat are mu'ayyan. Allah told us which ones you have to do it. And some of them He gave us a category of actions, you choose from them. So most of the ibadat are mu'ayyan, right? You have to do them specifically. Example, Salat Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Zakat, Hajj, specific. How about the ones which are by choice? Kafara. You made an oath in the future, you didn't break it, you broke it, you didn't fulfill it, you have choices. Free a slave, category 1, or feed or clothe 10 poor people with a modest clothing or modest food, or third category is fast 3 days. That's a choice. It's wajib, all of them. One of these is wajib. Mukhayyar, you have a choice between them based on your ability. So the reason why sometimes it's mukhayyar, choice-based, is because the maslahah again can be achieved by any one of these. If it's mu'ayyan, Allah wants us that one particularly because that's going to bring the benefit for everybody. A good example of this, because sometimes something can be mukhayyar, choice, and then the choice becomes more restricted. For example, after a battle, Allah talks about in Surah Muhammad that a person has a choice, the wali al-amr, the ruler, what he's going to do with the prisoners of war. Surah Muhammad, Allah talks about what we're going to do with the prisoners of war. We're going to keep them, we're going to ransom them, we're going to execute them, we're going to free them. There's choice. But in today's time, when the prohibition of slavery, the ulama, what do they say? We don't do that then. Because it's not one of the objectives, mukhayyar. Some people come to you and say, we got to bring back the slavery. Tell me, Shaykh, it wasn't something maqsood in that. You see some people, they're so lost, guys. They're so lost. Because the ulama, have you seen any ulama saying that? They understand. It's mukhayyar. It's possible Sharia exists without it. You see, that's very important because some people come to Islam came to get us. It's like, what? La hawla. So why? So, fakku raqaba, so I can free you? Right? We came to enslave people so we can free them, right? Allah, when you study the topic, you start realizing some people, they didn't understand the Sharia properly. So ulama say, because of the waqt and the maslahah now, we can't do it. It's mukhayyar anyways. There's already 4 choices. You get down to 3. Following me here? But see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Allah who is the judge. But when some other ibadat are made mu'ayyana, it's very important to ask. Most ibadat are specific anyways. And the last one, which is the most important, how do you know something's wajib? The wordings. You have to check its wordings. The wordings can be either specific grammatical formats, for example, specific formulations, like siyagh. For example, last week we looked at lam al-amr, ma'a fi'l mudari'. You put them together. Lam al-amr ma'a fi'l mudari' majzoom equals wajib. Some of us is like, that's not helping me. Okay, I'll give you a better one. I'll show you, maybe next week we'll talk about it. Look at the madlul, the meaning. If you look at the meaning of the ibadah, you can tell if it's wajib or not. And who mentioned this benefit? Ibn Qayyim. And if you want to check it, Tafsir al-Sa'di fi al-Muqaddimah. Tafsir al-Sa'di, rahimahullah, he mentioned al-Muqaddimah some fawaid from Ibn Qayyim, bida'i fawaid. Ibn Qayyim, subhanAllah, with his knowledge that he has, what did he do? He combed through the Quran and Sunnah, and he found out certain words always prove something's wajib or mustahab. And certain words, the long list is like something that's long. If you see these wordings, it's makruh or haram. Rahimahullah. And you see these wordings, mustahab. And all of them are easy to find. Allah, it's beneficial. Imam Sa'di put in the Muqaddimah so you can follow him in the Tafsir of Sa'di. And we're going to see next week, if you look at that, it's easier to remember those than the formulations. Because last year we talked about the formulations. I think most people forgot them, right? Anyone remembers any of them? Well, that's one of the signs or the wordings was wajib. Yeah? Ism fi'l amr. That's the easiest one. If'al. Wa aqimu salah. And then we mentioned like 4 or 5 others. So some people say, oh, I forgot those. طيب. You can check the meaning. And I'm going to show you later if you can combine between both. And that shows us that the Sharia can be approached in more than one way. It's helpful to know it. But why am I mentioning this? The first step we do before we do fiqh or to do hukum, is it wajib or not? So what are you going to check? The wordings or its meanings. Then based on the determination, you say it's wajib. طيب. Now you got the wajib. Next step. It's wajib. What kind of, now I have to check the timing, the amount, the who has to do it, what kind of action. Answer those questions, now you have the hukum, and it's wajib, full form. So wajib, is it time bound or not time bound? Time bound, what kind of time bound? Right? Okay, next, if it's wajib, is it fixed amount or not fixed amount? طيب, next, is it individual communal obligation? Next, specific or choice? You do all that, you got the full picture. That's what the ulama, the reason why they put these categories, so we can find the conclusion. Of course, there's something missing still, and we'll get to it later, but that much if you can do, you're already thinking like an usuli. Because you're focusing on the wajib, how you got there, what kind is it, what is it, and each one has implication. So let's give an example and then we can move to the next one. Commanding, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. Amr ma'ruf wa nahy an munkar. Is it wajib or not wajib? It's wajib. You guys agree with it? Anyone differ? Some of us like, I don't know, brother. Okay. How do we know it's wajib? Who can bring an ayah or dalil? وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. This ayah proves what? It's wajib. How do we know? وَلْتَكُنْ لام الأمر مع فعل مضارع مجزوم. وَلْتَكُنْ لام أمر تكن وتسكون فعل أمر. فعل أمر equals wajib. So far with me, everybody? Okay, it's okay. Now, what kind of wajib? Ayni or kifai? Kifai, communal obligation. How do we know? وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ. Ibn Kathir's tafsir, that's what he says. خلاص. But Ibn Kathir says fard kifai, and he keeps going, you're like, mashallah. You're enjoying it, mashallah, I enjoy this. But when you got that, so far, you like got lost when he said it's fard, and then you got lost when he said communal, you see? And that's what some ulama said, that these books, they prerequisite that you know some of those things. But when you know it, it's like, oh, mashallah, this is not that hard. Fard kifai, okay. Now, is it muhaddad or غير muhaddad? Is it bounded by any time? Is that amount like we have to do? No, it's open mutlaq. It's a command to command you to enjoy the evil. There's no amount. Of course, there's uslub, there's a method, but we don't have an amount. How about we got a specific obligation or a choice? Choice specific, you have to do it as a communal obligation. There's no choice between that and others. Of course, we know that sometimes you can do it, or if it's communal obligation, we know that sometimes you can move to individual obligation. Is it time bound? It's an interesting question, right? Yes and no, right? Generally, no. It's not time bound. Anytime. But when does it become amr ma'roof and nahy munkar becomes no more wajib? When does it not become wajib? So it's fard kifai. So if somebody is doing it, I'm off the hook. But if sometimes it comes fard ayni if no one is doing it, right? So no one is doing it, or I'm the only one who knows it. Okay, now I'm saying, how about if I see something haram? I know I can stop it, but I don't. When am I off the hook? Is there such a period? There is a time. Huh? Okay, someone fast. That's a good one, right? If someone's fasting, drink your shit, let him go. You have to remind him. He's gonna finish anyway, so don't worry. But what's a good time? Interesting point. Giving advice, it makes it worse. Sometimes, for example, you see something, and if you were to do something, it makes it worse. You can delay it. That's one benefit. Because you know, if I stop it now, it can get way worse. Because someone is, doing, he's drunk, and I gotta come, I gotta try to stop him. It gets real bad. Or threat to your life, so no necessities, okay? And how about the time period becomes waqt al-fasad? Everything is messed up. That's the hadith Hudayfa al-Iman. Where he talks about, and hadith Uthman, about the end of time becomes so corrupted. There's so many sins, there's nobody, you can't do it. Everyone's corrupted. Some ulama said, that case, you help yourself and that's it. And so why is it important? Because there will come a time like that. It's too much evil. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum. Take care of yourself. That's what the ayah means. So we can see that sometimes we don't have to do anything. But generally speaking, you have to do it. Communally. So the benefit we take from that is that if we can answer the question when you're off the hook and when you're not, and is there time? It does allow us to benefit. But generally speaking, it's not time. It's more to do with scenarios. So it's not time bound like we understand it, like here to here. It's more of scenarios. But the benefit behind asking that question is that sometimes we can be off the hook. But see now, if you understood all of this, you got the general ruling regarding that. We're not done, obviously, there's more details. But imagine, if someone asks you hukum, the ruling, and commanding good and forbidding evil, and you just said hukum is wajib, al-kifai. That much you got, you're there. Then the next issue that comes, and the ruling. So fiqh is a combination of many masail. So you go one by one. So next issue. Till what? You write a whole book full of what? Different issues related to the topic. So from here we can see a little bit goes a far way. Now we have a principle in front of us. مَا لَا يَتِمُ الْوَاجِبْ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ wajib. Whatever is needed to complete an obligation, it too is an obligation. Why do we need this principle? If something is wajib and something else is needed to get to the wajib, that thing becomes wajib. But what is the wajib here we're talking about? The wajib in terms of, is it wujub or siha? Is it the wajib of obligation or the wujub, yani somebody being qualified? Scholars say here it's not to do with wujub, it has to do with siha. So for example, do I have to reach the age of puberty to pray salah like wajib? Yes. Do I have to do it myself? No, I just get older. It's not my responsibility. Making wudu, you need to do it. Allah asks you to do it. So that one you have to do it. Another example, zakat. How much money do you need? Let's say $800 roughly. Is it wajib to get $800 in your account? No, because that's for wujub. But if you got $800, you kept it for 1 year, then you have to pay it. See the difference between the two? So ulama say if something you need it, Allah asks you to do it, and it's needed for wajib, then you have to do it. Both of them are wajib. Salah is wajib, wal wudu wajib. But salah is wajib and age of puberty. It's not a wajib, it's a wajib, but it's not a wajib. You just get there and then we go there. So the benefit behind it is that some things you can do, something Allah told you not to do. The question you should always ask, if something is wajib, what's connected to the wajib? Okay, because sometimes you need to do it, sometimes you don't have to do it. So that makes our life beneficial. But some things we know you have to do it. Not because itself is wajib, because it leads to the wajib. Salatul Jum'ah, taking a car to get there, and the only way I can get to the masjid is by the car. Taking the car to Jum'ah becomes then wajib. Taking, for example, going to Salatul Janazah, which is considered mustahab, for a communal obligation, mustahab for everybody. Going to the masjid for Salatul Janazah is mustahab. Me taking my car to get there becomes mustahab. So, ma la yatimul wajib, ma la yatimul mustahab, ma la yatimul makruh. Keep filling in, except it takes the same ruling. Wajib will lead to wajib, makruh to makruh, mustahab to mustahab. The benefit behind that is, if somebody knows he can fulfill a wajib a certain way, but he doesn't do it, he's liable. Sometimes and other times not. So the benefit behind the sharia counts for both of them. So Allah knows our situation. But let's say you don't have the ability to get to the masjid. The Jum'ah, you can pray because it's too far. Nobody's praying in your locality. Are you sinful for not praying Jum'ah? No, because you couldn't get there. You have no means, even though you tried. Tayyib, number 2 now, recommended. This is a little bit easier now. Recommended action can be called different names. You can call it mustahab, you can call it mandub, you can call it sunnah, all the same meanings. Is that which Allah commanded us to perform with a non-binding command. Non-binding means Allah recommending it. It looks like you have to do it, but other evidences or the wording suggests you have a choice. So for example, praying the sunnah before and after salah, the wordings are in command form, but they indicate it's good to do it. As we'll see later, how do we know that? So things which are sunnah, you're not sinful for doing it. The ruling, if you do it with intention, you get the reward. If you leave it off, then you don't deserve punishment. The point behind the mandub or mustahab, why does it exist in the sharia? Imam Shatibi says that the mustahab is a khadim. It's a servant for the wajib. It's the doorman for the wajibat. Allah put mustahab to protect the wajib. Think, when you pray your salah, you made mistakes, you're not focusing, okay, what do you do before and after? Sunnah salahs, to help you fill in the gaps. Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah will check those. Another example, fasting recommended days of the year helps us get ready for Ramadan. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to fast almost the whole of Sha'ban, getting ready for Ramadan. So you see that? So one of the benefits behind knowing this, when you fall too short in the mustahab, you threaten the wajib. So that's why ulama always push to do the mustahab. Imagine someone doesn't pray any sunnahs. It's not sinful, but it could be a case, if he's not very serious, he might miss the wajib. I need the fard salah, he might start missing them. So the best way to protect yourself, do that. How about these categories? Aqsam. 3 categories. Number 1, an emphasized sunnah. Sunnah mu'akkada. Number 2, sunnah ghayr mu'akkada. Sunnah that's not emphasized. And number 3, a sunnah of aada. Right? They call it, or sunnah of nature, prophets of nature. So Jibiliyan, what he used to do personally. Or some they call it sunnah za'idah. Different names. So why do we categorize the sunnah or the mustahab into 3 categories to know how emphasizes it? A sunnah the Prophet ﷺ always used to do is called sunnah mu'akkada, emphasized. 12 rak'ahs or 10 rak'ahs every day and night is sunnah mu'akkada, very emphasized. Witr is sunnah mu'akkada. Nabi ﷺ prayed it fil hadar wa safar, traveling and resident. Why is it important to know those? You keep doing it. It's good to know, and therefore it's better to do it and encouraged to. Sunnah ghayr mu'akkada, anything Nabi ﷺ did it, but he didn't do often. Can anyone give an example? Salat al-Duha. Salat al-Duha, some people say, is this sunnah? He prayed it, alayhi salatu, so it's sunnah. So definitely he did it. Umhani, he did it. But it's not mu'akkada. So therefore some of the Sahaba and Salaf were different. Nabi only did it in the conquest of Mecca. He only did it this time. He came back from travel. You see where the conversation is? Why the ulama even different on Duha? If you read the Rasail on Duha, you're even shocked. Some ulama say it's not sunnah. Like, subhanAllah, not sunnah. And what you gotta say, wait a minute, the ulama, they don't say stuff like this, right? So why they said that? When did Nabi Sallallahu do it? They say, well, he only did it when he came back from battle or travel. Oh, wait, so it's not mu'akkadah? So now we have a conversation. Why no one did that time? Or the second thing they asked, Nabi Sallallahu told us to do it, but he didn't do it. So they say why he said it and didn't do it. But the more correct opinion in Sunnah, it is emphasized qawliyan by statement, but not fi'l, action. Why? Because Nabi Sallallahu what did he tell us to do? Do duha. Why didn't he do it? Out of fear that's going to become wajib. Khalas, that's our answer. Taraweeh, Nabi Sallallahu prayed how many days? 3 days, and he stopped. Out of fear it's going to become wajib. Because someone say, okay, Taraweeh is not Sunnah. It's only sometimes. No, we're going to say Sunnah because Sahaba understood that the mani' was there, preventative. It lifted, it stayed. Abu Bakr, Umar, Abu Bakr didn't change it, Umar changed it back to the original Sunnah. So question, Umar did bid'ah? Right? The one saying that doesn't even know where Umar got it from. Nabi Sallallahu 3 days, what was he doing? If it's the Prophet did it, and that's another rule we're going to learn later, the Prophet did it as ibadah, فهو مستحبة. If he did it as ibadah, it's already mustahab, taqarrub. How can you say it's bid'ah? So the people who say it's bid'ah, like the Shia, Taraweeh or something, again, those who also come and say the 40-20 or 20 and 8, let's leave that aside for a second. I'm just talking about Taraweeh as action. Why Umar prayed in congregation? Nabi Sallallahu did it 3 days. Why is it that some Abu Bakr didn't do it? Because he wanted to hold on to the generality of Nabi's practice. When Umar brought back the Taraweeh in congregation, anyone objected? Uthman, Ali and all the fuqaha. So see, the benefit behind this, it's sunnah, but we know it's not mu'akkada because Nabi Sallallahu was scared of it becoming wajib. So that's why, how we know why some things are not mu'akkada or not. The last one is sunnah of customs. Sunnah of aada, or it's in Prophet's nature, or it's an urf, like a culture of a people, or the sunnah, yeah, that's probably the better way to say sunnah aada, right? So the sunnah adiyya or aada, what is it? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did it not as taqarrub, not to get closer to Allah, but as a culture of his people. Example, growing the hair long. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had natural long hair, the Arab had long hair. So the sunnah of aada was to keep long hair. Some of us, we don't have long hair. We want to follow the sunnah, and your hair doesn't grow long. So what are you going to do? So sunnah aada, Shaykh. If you did it with the niyyah, you get a reward. If you didn't do it, if you did it just to agree with Prophet ﷺ, if you do niyyah, you don't get a reward. Because Nabi ﷺ didn't do a taqarrub by this. When he ate honey, that's because he likes honey. If you ate honey because the Prophet ﷺ likes honey and I love Rasul ﷺ, I get hasanat. Li-niyyah. And by itself is not. So sometimes we conflate the two. Someone we see them, always worrying about how long his hair is. He doesn't care about his akhlaq and other things. Right? And then later on, today's time, most mashayikh are bald. Some ulama say, what happened? Well, the first, all the older men, right? Older men lose their hair. That's the first problem. Right? You forgot, right? He's old. Maybe he had hair. Right? Some shaykh had long hair, but most ulama, they cut their hair. But also the other ones, sunnah qawliya. Prophet ﷺ, what did he tell Wa'il bin Hujr? When he cut his hair one day, Prophet ﷺ with long hair. Then one day, Nabi ﷺ said something, and he went and he cut all his hair. Nabi ﷺ said, I didn't tell you to do that, but that's better. Sunnah qawliya over sunnah adiyya. That's the sunnah. You know, young people, they didn't go this far, right? They didn't get this Usul. So some of them, you see them always worrying about, he really is not doing it for Rasul ﷺ, some of them, right? Some of them. But someone who is, we say, okay, bin niyyah. But if you didn't have it, no problem. That's very important because it's the category. Turbans, sunnah adiyya, right? In some cultures, they have a turban style. Some, they have another one. The Yemeni one. Or in Saudi, they wear the shamab. And then you go to India, Pakistan, they have a turban. All that is aada. Covering the head is sunnah. How you do it is the aada. If I do the prophetic turban, I get reward with the niyyah. But if I don't, am I sinful? Nabi Sallallahu didn't wear taqarruban. He caused to cover the head. Yes, that's better. And the reason why this is useful, if some ulama, they don't agree to something, no one would dare say they're challenging the sunnah, right? They just say that's a sunnah of customs. Last two benefits in this section, the wordings. How do you know something is what sunnah or mustahab? Check the wordings. Again, grammatical forms or meaning. We're going to come back to that later. Benefit. Recommended acts that are started are not obligatory to continue unless the evidence shows it. So if you start something mustahab, do you have to finish it? No, you don't have to finish it. It's better to, but you don't have to. You start a sunnah salah and then the iqamah is called. Of course, there's detail when you can cut the salah, but if you just cut it off altogether, there's no sin on you. Do you have to do qada? More correct opinion, no, you don't have to. You don't have to qada. Although there's a discussion about the fasting. Another example would be someone did hajj or umrah. That's the only exception. If you start a recommended hajj, it's your second hajj, or your second umrah, and you started, you have to finish it. Why? وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةِ لِلَّهِ. Allah commanded Hajj and Umrah be finished. So that's the only exception. The reason why this is useful, you started fasting one day, your friend invited you to dinner, you are hungry, right? And he wants you to eat. Some of us will say, brother, I can't eat, and he doesn't invite you every day, come on. What are you supposed to do here? Sometimes some people, they forget. Sunnah, you can break it, you're not sinful. If you want to continue, you can, but there's adab to it too. But let's see, this is like, he didn't invite you before for a really long time. Don't worry, I'll break it and fast another day. That's good. But again, there's some difference of opinion about the qada there, but that's just a point of mentioning that. It says benefit. Ash-Shatibi rahimahullah says, if an action is recommended from the perspective of a particular, it's obligatory from the perspective of universal. What he's trying to say there is something interesting, again from the maqasid of Sharia and the hikmah of the Sharia. If Allah made something recommended itself, it means you don't have to do it. But collectively, the ummah has to do it. Something can be recommended fi juz, wajib fi kull. Example, some ibadat, like nikah and having children in the community. It's mustahab, aslan, nikah. It can go from wajib, it can go down, even depending on the circumstances. But let's say the whole ummah, the community, no one's having children. Khalas, now we're going to go down. So it becomes wajib li kull. Mustahab individual. So he says, if you look at the Sharia, again, Shatibi be looking at the Sharia far distance. Muwafaqat is full of these kinds of long distance wide overviews of the Sharia. It's absolutely wonderful. Because if someone to look at the Sharia like this, you find stuff like unbelievable. Like, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this recommended, knowing that it has this benefit? Because having children creates bigger communities, creates bigger economic labor power. That's why the Muslims, we have the biggest labor force, even though we're not using it necessarily fully, but we have it. And the Western world, they know it. Hence they import the immigrants from our side. But them, they don't have the maqasid. They don't have the children going downhill. They're suffering economically from that. Again, these are things that if you look at these books, especially Muwafaqat is the best book on this, and of course the books of Ibn Qayyim, some of the fawaid, wallahi guys, I'm telling you, somebody reads it, he will say Islam is the haqq. No way. This is the deen Allah. That's the benefit. So this is one of the benefits. Also we can see that something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. So adhan is fard kifayi. So it's mustahab on everyone who's able to do adhan to do it, right? And that's the muaddin who's being appointed. Imagine the whole community doesn't do adhan. What happens to the community now? It can even lose its status of Idar al-Islam. What's one of the conditions for a country, to Muslim country? There's adhan. So Imam Shatibi says in a place doesn't have adhan, maybe some Sahaba used to use that as a principle to figure out if you can fight these people or not. So mustahab for the juz, but the kull is wajib. Somebody has to do it. Otherwise we're all in trouble. Subhanallah. Imagine everyone says mustahab, akhi, no problem. No adhan, no jama'ah, no tarawih. Something's going to go wrong in the ummah. And that's why you can see why these things matter in the deen. Even though some people are doing it, that's why fard kifai, the benefit usually for someone to take it. Let's now go and jump to mubah, permissible. Permissible means Allah made something, gave the mukallaf, the legally responsible person, a choice. They can do it or they can leave it off. So a person does it, the ruling, if they do it, if he does it, they don't deserve any reward. And if they leave it off, they are not deserving a punishment. But if they do it with the niyyah to help in the ibadah, they get the reward. So we can see now for mubah, you don't do ibadah by it. But with the good niyyah to help with ibadah, you get reward. So you can make a mubah and ibadah through niyyah wal hay'ah, through intention and manner. This is an interesting principle. You can make a mubah and ibadah through two things: intention, niyyah, wal hay'ah, and form. Give an example. You eat your food. Eating food is mubah. Allah says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا. Someone say, akhi, that's amr. Fi'l amr. We didn't get there yet. All we got so far is there. We're going to see this. كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا is amr, but what is the amr for what? Libaha. Although if somebody doesn't eat anything, it becomes wajib. That's what ulama to say. When it comes to mubahat, you have to do it generally, not specifically. So you can, Allah says, eat something, right? Halal, right? We don't have to eat whatever you want, but you can't say, I'm not going to eat. Allah says, كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا. طيب, eat. How does you make your eating ibadah? Number one, the intention. What's your intention? What should it be? To worship Allah, get strength for ibadah. If you do that, you get rewarded. And if you didn't do that, you don't have any sin. Right? So we're just talking about the bare minimum. You ate your food, mashallah. You said it with a niyyah, I'm going to do this so I can go to the dars. You see? I gotta eat something. طيب, you get hasanat. Mu'adh bin Jabal, what did he say? Verily I seek Allah's reward. أحتسب. I seek my reward from Allah for what? في نومتي, my sleep, as I seek Allah's reward from في قومتي, my standing. So the benefit we take is that he used to take the niyyah of sleeping to get strength to tahajjud. That's the Sahaba and Salaf, high achievers. That's a good, that's an easy thing to do, right? طيب, next one, بالهيئة, manner. How are you going to eat? You got a good niyyah. And what do? You just dive in. Where is your Bismillah? Where is the right hand? Where is the Alhamdulillah after? Ibadah. So the Sharia, have you noticed that everything which is mubah, there's aada, there's some ibadat connected to it? So, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ. My whole life can be for Allah. You see the Sharia? Allah says, wherever you want, ilbas ma shit. But, say Bismillah, we'll put it on. So you don't lose. Our deen is so meticulous. Allah wants us to get reward in everything. Even though you don't have to do it. So Allah said, Messenger told us, wear whatever you want. So go back to the ayah, kulu washrabu, hadith, kul ma shit, means mubah, eat what you want, and drink what you want, and wear what you want, as long as it's not arrogance and extravagance. But now, if I have good clothes, because Allah loves, Allah jameel yuhibbul jamal, so that's why I wear it. And number two, when I wear it, I will start with the right side. You're in ibadah now. That's our deen, guys. Go and Jew and Christian, ask him, what you got? He just puts on his shoes, so yeah, nothing, he's ta'ban, he doesn't have any ibadah. And that's the small stuff. We didn't get to the masjid yet. Wallahi, students, my brothers and sisters, if you look at this, you will notice why people like Islam, because give them structure. People are looking for it. They say, I want to know what they got to do. I want to tell them, just go with the big stuff. No, I need something to help me. So tayyib, once you got that far, let's talk about categories, aqsam. There are 4 of them. Maybe we'll skip them for now. But Imam Shatibi, even in the English translation, Muwafaqat, you can see it if you want to read it. Volume 1, page 92 to 93. He talks about that the mubahat are 4 categories, or at least 3. We will leave them for now, just for the sake of the time. But what it is that sometimes mubah is allowed, sometimes not allowed, or most times allowed, and sometimes it becomes like allowed. Things which are not mubah become mubah. So simple example, eating and drinking is mubah, right? Permissible. But eating and drinking pork become mubah when there is necessity. So that shows you some things can go from haram to mubah. Something from mubah can go to haram. Example, eating and drinking is permissible, but if you ate so much, your stomach is hurting, you have to go to the hospital. It's haram, akhi. Another example, somebody eating more than 1/3. Haram or makruh. What is this? Makruh. For some people, they have to, because he's a bodybuilder or something. Now, some people ask the question, I want a bulk, brother. Is it haram to eat more than 1/3? For you, it's good, mubah, because you're strong and you eat more. The ulama categorize it. Yes, they do this. Another example, someone's going to work in the factory. You're going to eat big lunch, akhi. You're going to do work. He needs to go all the way. Why? Because he's going to do work. That shows the Sharia can change the ruling based on it. But one of the considerations, doing something too much. Ulama doesn't say that's not good. Games are halal. But imagine you're playing 24 hours, 18 hours a day. No, akhi, this is from makruh. It even becomes haram if it stops your ibadat. If it doesn't, it becomes makruh, because you're wasting time. But if a little bit, it's allowed. So Imam Shatibi talks about it. Check it. Muwafaqat. It's very nice because it helps you to see when something is good or not. A good topic to research, if you have time, khawar al-muru'ah. That which is uncultured behavior goes back to the mubah. But also what the people consider good. The last 2 are connected, which is makruh and muharram. Makruh just means Allah commanded us to leave it off, but in a way that's not hatman or lazim, not binding the command. If you leave off something disliked with an intention, you deserve a reward. If you did it, then you do not get or deserve any punishment. You don't deserve a punishment. So makruh doesn't mean something good. It just means better to avoid. So makruh, the origin in the Salaf, when you hear makruh, it means haram. The way they understood the Salaf, when they say makruh, it means haram. Because makruh means literally something that is detested. But the ulama, they divided makruh into 3 categories. So the reason I'm telling you that is some of the early scholars say this is makruh. Remember, Ibn al-Qayyim says, if you're talking about Ahmad, the early scholars, when they say makruh, it means muharram. Just understand that. But when the ulama later, they divided it because there's sometimes something's makruh, it just means better to avoid it. Example, we have 3 categories there. Number 1, makruh at-tahrimi, and makruh of prohibition. Something's makruh, but it's haram at the same time. Makruh can mean haram. What's an example of that? Right? Eating onions that come into the masjid, is makruh tahrim, is haram, or is it disliked? Good question, right? It depends, right? So some of them say it's makruh, tahrimi. Some of them, and some say tanzih. It's better to avoid it doing it, but if you have a need to, you can. But you're right, this is general ruling is to hold it as tahrimi. That's the best way to approach it. So if someone ate it, raw onions and garlic, and has nothing to take away the scent, the best is to take it alive, go and clean, get it removed. You can't, and you pray at home. That's the best way to treat it, as we'll see later. But some ulama, they move it down to other category, as we'll see later how they do this. So first one, something Allah's Messenger or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, but it really doesn't mean it's disliked. It means don't do it. In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He dislikes for you, qeel wa qaal. Qeel wa qaal means ghiba and namima. Qeel wa qaal is haram, right? Naha, but it's haram. Allah hates it. Haram. Makruh tanzihi. This is the one most of us know. Stay away from it. But you don't have to. Example, most of the adab in the Sharia are in this category. If a prohibition comes in the bab, in the chapter of adab, etiquettes, most of the ulama say it's tanzih. Okay, there's a good principle to remember. Again, there's different opinion on it, but there's many scholars to hold that. For example, it's disliked to stand and put on your shoes. Hadith Jabir, Nabi Sallallahu disliked putting on the shoes while standing. Naha Rasul Sallallahu. Okay, haram or makruh? The ulama who say it's makruh say this is an etiquette. Etiquettes, prohibitions mean makruh. Okay, eating with your left hand? Haram. But we just said the principle is makruh. So many ulama say eating left hand is makruh. But some ulama say no. It's not going to work. Because we have another proof. What is the person who eats with left hand? Shaitan. Haram to copy him. Haram. That's how they solved it. Otherwise, it was many ulama say makruh. I know some must be shocked. Makruh. My whole life I've been getting in trouble for this, right? No, but your parents did a good job, right? But some people, they get shocked. Oh, it's only makruh. No, it means you shouldn't do it. But the haram is stronger. Why? Can't copy shaitan. So tanzih and makruh. What's the difference between tahrim and tanzihi? The only difference is which one you get sin or not. All the ulama say don't do makruh. It's not good, but it's not haram if it's the second one. The last one is some ulama only have this category. They call khilaf al-awla. Khilaf al-awla just means it's against the sunnah. This is how the ulama show the wara'. They have carefulness in the sharia. Not praying witr. Is it makruh? Where is the Quran Sunnah says makruh? You don't pray witr. It's not makruh like that. What do we call it? Khilaf al-awla, khilaf al-sunnah. It's better to do it. You go against the sunnah. Look at the etiquette. Why is that better? Because it's the lowest level of makruh. This is like considered like the weakest makruh. You didn't do the best thing, but it's not sin at all. Because the man who came and said, I'm going to pray 5 times a day only. The Prophet told him that if he does this, then his truth will go to Jannah. Now, we're not telling people not to pray to witr, but imagine someone doesn't pray. Some ulama say, is he talib ilm or ami? Talib ilm, he has to. Some ulama went there, Ya Ahmed, others went to talib ilm is wajib. Or some say mustahab, mu'akkada. They say, why? Because talib ilm. It's hamil sharia, no. They said, ami. The reason I'm saying that is because imagine someone told you, I don't pray witr. You're not going to say, it's makruh. Makruh needs nas. You're just going to say khilaf al-awla, khilaf al-sunnah. That's good etiquette, right? Shaykh al-Maz, look at his fatawa, how he always says khilaf al-sunnah. Etiquette. He doesn't have a text. So now you can better appreciate why they say that. Okay, marrying 4 wives or marrying 1 wife. All right, depends on what madhab you're on this one, right? So we're not going to open that door because you're going to be fighting there, right? We're just going to say, some ulama, what do they say? The Hanabila, what do they say? They say khilaf al-awla. Some of them say that khilaf al-awla. They say not khilaf al-sunnah, khilaf al-awla, because Allah says do one, because it's more just. So they say do one is khilaf al-awla because they're going to create mashakil. But they don't say sunnah, khilaf al-sunnah because Nabi did it. So what they're trying to say is better not to do it because of the problems that can come from some people who are not able to do it. But they're not going to, and also not going to call it sunnah, some of them. Why? Because they're going to say Nabi did it, but the Nabi sallallahu he did it for other reasons. So the discussion here is interesting. You have to obviously respect it that those who say it's sunnah, they have an argument. Those who say it's better to do one, they have an argument. The language is important because what they're trying to do is they're not going to say it's not sunnah just like that because they know the etiquette. As someone who said sunnah, they're also going to prove it. The last thing, how do we know something is makruh? Same thing. There's wordings and meanings. The last one's muharram. It's the same thing as makruh except you change the wording from that which Allah commanded to be left off with a binding ruling. You have to, a binding command. Means Allah didn't give us any room not to leave it off or to do it. And the ruling is, if you did not do something haram with an intention, you left it off, Allah will reward you. And if you did it, then you're deserving a punishment. Key word, deserving. Because you may be off the hook if you have an excuse or you're ignorant or something came in your way, or maybe you were negligent, and Allah is Ghafur Rahim. If something is haram, it's something which someone should avoid because of this nature. It has levels, but the two categories scholars divided. Something which is haram lidhatihi, prohibited in and of itself, and something haram lighayrihi, due to other reasons. This is the most important part of this for the haram. To categorize this of haram, these two categories are very useful. Something which is haram lidhatihi, in and of itself, the Sharia has prohibited it in all times, except for necessities. If something's prohibited in and of itself, it's only allowed in the darura, permissible necessity. And something which is prohibited for other reasons, it's allowed when there's a haja, a need, not a necessity, a need. This discussion, the ulama have written good books and researches to talk about contemporary issues and look analyzing it. What kind of tahrim is it? Okay, is it lidati or lighayri? Once we got there, okay, what are the implications? The reason why this is useful, the question that came today in the Q&A, somebody said I can buy a house on riba because it's haram, because it's based on my intention, or because I have a necessity. First issue is that, is it correct that riba only becomes permissible when it's a necessity? Answer is yes, because riba is haram lidatihi, in and of itself. And when we say riba, there's two ribas, right? What are they? Riba fadl and riba nasiya, the two, right? One of delay, one of excess. So the one that the ulama specify you, the real riba, where is it? Riba nasiya, the one we delay. Money for money, delay payment for extra money. This is you can say the real one, because riba fadl goes there. The benefit behind this, if I want to buy a house on a mortgage, when am I supposed to do it? When there's a necessity. What does that mean? It's going to be life or death situation, or close to it, or such severe damage to the person that they're going to harm the dunya with deen. So example would be, there's no housing available for a family of your size. No housing can be offered of the available housing now, or you can't, or the rents or the condos are too small. You need to have that. Or someone literally is at risk of being homeless. It's the only option. So if there's options, there's no necessities. Remember that. If there's an option, there's no necessity. Halal options, right? If there's no halal options, then you force. Okay, riba, necessity. Today people come and say, okay, I need to buy a house, but the necessity. What's the necessity? Can't rent. Rent's too high. And this one's not high. I mean, you're going to say it's cheaper. I'm going to ask if it's cheaper. I ask, is there alternatives? Some people, when they say necessity, it means it's cheaper, brother. Right? Or some are going to reveal the real intent. I want my kids to have something. That's a necessity, right? The kids to have something. You see, this, we have to be honest with people. Who's telling them this? The people who said it's halal with the fatwa of the European Council. Right? We have to know where it comes from, who passed that fatwa, Qardawi and his jama'ah, when they said it's allowed. How did they get there? See, do you think Qardawi doesn't know this? Haram lidati lighayri, he knows. Right? Because he's dangerous. So what is he going to do? He's going to restructure he's going to declare a necessity, not a necessity, to another window. Very useful, this information. Why? All of our family members asking you this question, right? Why is it haram, brothers, and this, that? Haram lidatihi. Only becomes permissible when there's a necessity. You don't have one. There's an alternative. As for haram lighayrihi, it becomes halal when there's a haja. Anyone have an example? Tasweer. Picture taking is haram lidati or lighayrihi. Why is it haram, picture taking? What are the ilal? What's the reasoning? Yeah? It was to shirk. It can lead to shirk, idol adultery. It prevents the angels coming to the home. Yeah? Yeah, it can bring the anger of Allah and His punishment. So the ulama mentioned more than one of them. Okay. Today I have to get a driver license. Haja, right? I mean, some might be telling you not haja. No, that's haja. Okay, that's too much now. Right? It's haja. And it's a haja, طيب. So I need to take a picture. Haram lighayri, fadl. Look at all the fatawa now, mashayikh. Oh, for the one who has money, the one who has a picture. But some people didn't understand the mas'ala. They think the surah is haram illa darura. Lesh? And how? How did you go there? Who said it's a sweet is haram lidati? And this is problematic because we don't do that. We don't act like this. Another example would be the money in your pocket. You don't have choice in that. But the reason why this is important, if there's no haja, it becomes asl hukm is haram. Again, with the discussion of the ulama in there. But that's the point. We're trying to mention that when they say it's haram, then you check the type. Example would be now, Go to the next two. The last one is wording, so we can keep mentioning that. The last one here is specific prohibition or prohibition of choice. Did Allah restrict us in that particular thing's haram, or did He give us a choice of things that are haram? This is a very rare issue, and it's the last one we'll talk about today. Prohibition of choice doesn't exist too much in Sharia, if in few issues. For example, a man marries a woman, can he marry her sister? No. So it becomes haram due to his choice. He chose to marry her, so he can't marry his sister, unless he divorced her. So it's halal in itself, but he chose. Another example would be then, somebody does something which is halal, but then because of this, it necessitates something else haram. A man, for example, divorces one of his wives. He has 4 wives. Someone's going to be divorced because he divorced one of them. Right? Based on his intention, but he has 4 wives, someone will be divorced. Right? So for example, here we choose one of them and divorce because he pronounced it willingly. So it's by choice. But it doesn't mean that he didn't have that choice. Once he pronounced it, it becomes... So the choice means if he did it, something else becomes prohibited. But if he didn't do it, it's still not prohibited. So most of the Sharia is not there. It's in the first type. Allah prohibited things specifically. One last thing connected to prohibitions. How do you know something's prohibited in and of itself or not? Some ulama say if there is a scenario besides a necessity where something can be done, then we can tell that it is haram لغيره, or if it's haram due to its meaning or its characteristic, how the person did it, or when a person does it, then you would know it's haram. Buying and selling is halal. Buying and selling after the second adhan of Jum'ah is haram. Why? Haram لغيره, because Jum'ah adhan, second adhan was called. Otherwise, they would have counted. So that's how they would say, because you can buy and sell regularly, but not this time. So it's haram for other reasons. Looking at a woman before marriage, right? You come to khutbah, you want to propose to a woman, you want to see her. Seeing her, in that case, becomes halal, right? Because niyas. But looking at a woman generally is haram. But what kind of haram is it? لغيره, because it leads to fitna. But if there's a necessary or a hajjus or a need, it becomes allowed. I know some people, they don't know that because they don't want to show their daughters even when it's marriage, right? So we have to tell them, akhi, it's haram لغيره. See? So the fiqh come handy. Some people look at you, haram, as if it's lidatihi. So why is it awam? They don't know. But we can explain to them that why is it allowed here? Because even though there might be something, a fitna, the context, the maslahah is better, greater. It's going to create love between them. Another example would be something like I mentioned, like the prohibition of certain transactions. A good example of this, right, if you look at it, is the difference between gharar, high-risk transactions, and riba. Gharar is the foundation behind most of the insurance transactions, most of the high-risk investments and stuff. When does gharar become halal then, or need, a high-risk transaction? And we're talking gharar, which is not fahish. It's fahish, this one. Talking about it's just excessive. So scholars say if it's just too much gharar there, but there's a need for it, then it can become halal because of that need. Otherwise, it shouldn't be done. So an example of an insurance. Like here, insurance, we all have car insurance. How come you have car insurance? Because we have to have it. And gharar is the foundation of the transaction. I pay money every month. Allahu a'lam, I'm going to get in a car crash. Allahu a'lam, I'm going to get the money back. But if someone says now, gharar is haram, Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah argues, for when there's a need, insurance, there's a need now. In fact, there's even more than a need, necessity, because in many cases you can't go to work or visit family, anything without the car. So what happens is we got compelled for the car insurance. It's more of a need than a necessity for most people. But because this thing can become permissible due to necessity, ulama say that the person who's in the West and the car insurance is compelling or binding, you take it. But they don't say the housing is. Now you get it? Now you understand it. See, when they say the house, no. Riba haram only for darura. Car insurance, if you're forced to, haja. See, now you get the behind the scenes. Now you get it. Now you get the fatwa. Now you appreciate that because the ulama are not just throwing things out here and there. Of course, the mufti doesn't have to explain this. But when he's explaining it, if you know a little bit about it, it benefits from understanding it better, but also explaining it to others. Right? Because as you probably notice, when people ask you a question, some of the problems, they don't understand how come it's haram. If he's a ami, and he doesn't know any better, you can explain a simple way. If somebody's like literally telling you it's haram and it's, they're fighting, like they're debating now, then we have to go to the core issue. Inshallah, we'll end with this much. Hopefully this helps us to have an overview. Where we go from here now, next week, inshallah ta'ala, we move to the next topic, which is the nadu al-ahkam al-wada'iyya wa ahkam al-taklifiyya. We finished this and we did taklif. And again, later on, we're going to put this in like a diagram so you can see all the categories that we're looking at. The next step is, if these are the rulings that can be derived from the Quran and Sunnah, adillah, what are the adillah? That's the next mabhath. Right? What are the adillah fi usul fiqh? What are they? Which ones are agreed upon? Which ones are differed over? Why? Because the next conversation has to be, something is wajib, how did you know? Where did you get it from? If you derive the wajib from the Quran and Sunnah, or do you derive from evidence everyone differs over? You see, now it's getting more interesting. Then later we're going to get to another one. So inshallah ta'ala, it's building towards something. Inshallah, any quick questions ta'ala, before we finish? Yes. So the brother saying something haram li does it always become halal al-hajj? Yes, but the hajj has to be determined. So the ulama also have conditions for hajj. So sometimes it could be public, hajj am or hajj khasa, specific to your circumstances or for general circumstances. Like the insurance issue is a general circumstance. So the hajj am sometimes goes up to the level of darura. Whereas hajj khasa can be given by fatwa. Some alim can look at your situation and say, for you, okay, you have a hajj. And sometimes it's just by the nature of things, how they're going. But the thing about that is that it has to be determined with these conditions as well, because not everything can be hajj. So for example, just to help us understand it, the Sharia divides things, the benefit of mankind, the masalih are three types. Hajat, the needs of mankind. Right? So the hajat, the people, so that's the hajat. And then first the daruriyat, the base necessities Allah allows and needs the people to fulfill. He wants us to fulfill it. Then above that is the hajat, the people. So the daruriyat are like food, drink. Without them, people are going to suffer in the dunya and the deen. So Allah wants that to be covered, for us to fulfill it. Then there's the hajat. You don't necessarily need it, but without it, life becomes very difficult. Very difficult. That's when it's hajj. Very difficult. So that's what they always mention. A mashaqqa, a difficulty which is not adi. It's not normal. Because usually life has mashaqqa, right? So someone can say, my whole life is hajj. It's like, so you change your lifestyle, right? Everything's a hajj. But it means some things is not normal. Then the kamaliyat, luxuries. So the problem today is some people are fasting fatawa li kamaliyat, man. I need a house, mashallah, a big one for my future. So what did they have to do with hajj with darura? And when he says it's hajj, you see his house, like, mashallah, how many kids you have again? I thought it was only the first house. How many bedrooms in there? And then the second one got sold, and third. Allah, no one does only one house, guys. Anyone knows that? Only buys one house for necessity. It's always then they move out to the bigger house. And he's saying, I thought it was one. You see, the problem is human beings. So sometimes when the ulama look at it, you have to look at it. Sharia also has categories. So that's why hajj has a specific meaning. Darura, specific meaning. Something which is luxury or fineries has specific meaning. Again, when you go into the fiqh, masalih, mafasid, and maqasid, you get into those. So again, each one has its depths, but at least you got the idea behind it. Wallahu alam. Yes? I know you have a question. Yeah, you have one, okay. Mubah and halal, same thing. So the different meanings, different words, sorry. Halal means mubah. Mubah just means like in the technical meaning in relation to its commandments or its origin. But you're right, halal, mubah, jaiz, you can use all these words. They all mean the same thing. Yes? So good question. Something which is sunnah mu'akkada, is there a difference if it becomes wajib? Yes. For example, Salat al-Kusuf. So we know Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when they only have one in his lifetime, he did it. He commanded us to do it. So this was the first discussion. Is it wajib, aini, or kifai? What is the ruling? Aini, what they say. Because you pray jama'ah or fardan. You can pray both. Next, is it wajib, mustahab? So many ulama said mustahab, and some said wajib, because Nabi said, go rush to it. So that's a good example of it became fard, or it became a command, which is aini, mustahab or not. So some say it's not necessarily mu'akkad in that sense, or some will say it's sunnah, and some will say that mu'akkad will be Eid. Eid salah ulama different again. Some say it's fard and some say it's sunnah mu'akkad. Nabi always used to pray it, so it's mu'akkad. But then some say that he told us to come pray it. So the group will say it's wajib. They say if you miss it, you have to do qada and you're sinful. Another group said it was mustahab. So that's a good example as well. So you can go, you can research some of these and you find the good examples and more. Yes? So every sabab is illah, but not every illah is a sabab. So every sabab is a illah. So they say when you use the word sabab, it has four meanings. Sometimes you can mean what a illah means. It's with it, the ruling's there, absent is not there. Other times it just means the wasila to something. So it's not a illah for it, it's just a wasila. So for example, someone will say this is the sabab for this. It doesn't mean it's the illah for it, but with it the ruling's present. So if the ruling's present, and then without it the ruling's absent, then you call it illah or sabab. But if you say that it's a means to something, doesn't mean the ruling's there, then you can call it just a sabab. And again, you can look at other examples. That's how they use it. Because the term sabab and shart, all the times they come grouped together. That's the useful part. But you're right, like you have to be more fine with the details. Allahu a'lam. Yes. That's a good question. Somebody prayed without knowing the gap was there, or they didn't know the ruling. Inshallah is ma'dur. Because 3 out of 4 madhabs they say salah counts. But also we mentioned before, one of the shurut. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so for example, if there's a saf in front of you, and people are there, and there's another saf and you're in there, you're not praying by yourself. Praying by yourself means the saf in front of me, and it's not empty, it's not full, and the saf in front of me is full, and I'm just praying by there. But if someone joined you, you guys are not alone now. Because another thing is if you're praying in the masjid, anywhere in the masjid, and there's more than one person praying with you, and you can hear the takbir of all the imam, salah will count. The reason I'm saying that is because sometimes even the sisters, right? If they're praying there, that counts. If they're praying together, or they're joined the jama'ah. But let's give the example, someone just came and he joined the salah, 2 of them, and they're one part of the building, and we're all in the same, like the haram. Everywhere, everybody's everywhere. But there's more than one person together, one group, another group there, one group there. Salah, all salah counts. But also, if you didn't know, that's another thing. Because we mentioned before that if someone's ignorant of a ruling or didn't know this, inshallah, Allah will forgive them. Because you didn't know. But now in the future, you just try to move up, or it's too late if they already started there, right? Yes. You just joined, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but he's still in the same role. The difference between gaps in the role and someone praying by himself. So, yeah, but he's in the same row, right? Yeah, it's still different. That's different because you're saying pray by yourself without. Because even filling the gap is another conversation. Is it validity of salah or not valid? The salah is valid, but the gap is not good because it's sinful. Because you're supposed to fill the gap, shaitan doesn't go in it. Yeah, he shouldn't have done that. The one who did that, I understand what he was doing, but it's better to go in the middle. But even sometimes that going in the middle is more recommendation. But the best etiquette, if you're coming late, the imam's going to ruku', you just come straight there, you know. Yeah, inshallah, they're not, yeah. Yeah, so I'm just saying, some people, that when they see that, some people come move that person to the middle, and some people, what they do, just start. And then, in this kind of situation, you could start on that side if you want, but it's not good. The person there made the mistake. It's simple to go in the middle. But the point is, what is the better here? To fill the gaps or to start in the middle? So, inshallah, next time, yeah, we're all going to start in the middle. Inshallah. Yeah, we're not going to do that, yeah. So whoever did that, we're not going to do that again, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah is valid altogether. But now we can see those ahkam, yeah, inshallah. Yes, last one. غرر is haram لغيره. So the Sharia allows in some cases when there's a maslahah. Example, selling fruit before they ripen. It's haram to sell it because of the gharar. It could grow green and goes to yellow, it might become smaller. But all our fruit is sold yellow. Green and before it becomes red. So the ulama say why? Because international trade is impossible to sell bananas when they turn yellow. No one's buying it from you. But if you're going to have to wait, turns yellow, you're going to lose the banana, you're going to lose the trade. So you have to sell it green. So fatwa ulama is because the maslahah is the other way. So the benefit behind that is since it's haram for other reasons, when the hajjah comes, we move there. And that's the only reason I mentioned, example, insurance versus riba. The only insurance which is riba is Life insurance, because it's 100% money for money. There's nothing going on there. No coverage, right? The only coverage is that you just hope you don't die. It's not you end up dying. Right? SubhanAllah, right? Astaghfirullah. Somebody's trying to get you, right? But that's what happens, right? Last one, brother, yes. That's a good question. The issue of videotaping a lecture for Hajj or not, this is where the ulama they differ. Some say for the maslahah of da'wah, it becomes now halal. Not because it's halal of itself, because the maslahah is greater. But others say that it doesn't reach that because of the tapers, or we have lectures, we can audio, podcast, whatever. So they differed on that angle, but both of them are doing ijtihad. So that's what you can see, that those who argued, they went from haram to or maslahah, and some they said, I don't see the maslahah, and they differed there. But now you can see that those who even allowed it were not going to say that the ulama who did ijtihad, they didn't know this, they knew this. And they looked at it carefully. When those and did ijtihad, one between 1 and 2 sin, 1 and 2 rewards, sorry. And then those who didn't, they also overturned the ijtihad, right? So that's where you can see, right, that discussion. And it also allows us to appreciate that there is ijtihad there, how they did it. Even though conclusion is not important right now. What's more important for us? Why? Later you go on to say who's right. Right, based on your more knowledge you have. Barakallahu feekum, subhanaka bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.